and teach everybody around to get the players that are comfortable playing.
Stephen A., do you agree with Larry Brown?
1,000%. First of all, let me say it's great to hear the voice of Larry Brown, somebody that I covered all 6 of his years in Philadelphia. I love him dearly. It's always great to hear his voice. This man has taught me so much about the game of basketball. I'm indebted to him for that regard, because regardless of his tenure in New York, his nickname was Mr. Fix-It for a reason. He was one hell of a coach, and that man knows his basketball. And he's absolutely right with what he said about Phil Jackson. But I'll also say that as right as Larry Brown was, Max Kellerman, I'm here to tell you, I think that Larry Brown was entirely too kind. Phil Jackson is officially a disaster. And I'm going to go on the record saying this. This is not sourced or information or anything. This is just based on what I see and the kind of things that I knew about Phil when Phil took the New York Knicks job. I firmly believe Phil Jackson is trying to get fired as the president of basketball operations for the New York Knicks. Phil Jackson wants to be fired because that way he doesn't have to work, but he still gets to collect his money. That's what he wants to do. He doesn't want to quit because he doesn't want to give up the additional $24 million left on his deal for over the next 2 years after this year is up. Now, I don't know the particulars about his contract with James Dolan or what have you, but I do know this. Phil wants his money. How do I know that? Because it's the only reason he took the job in the first place. He never wanted the job with the New York Knicks. He never wanted to put in that kind of work. He just could not turn down the money. And every move that he has made practically since he has been presiding over the New York Knicks proves just that. I ask you this question, Max Kellerman, rhetorically. Name one thing Phil Jackson has done right this year. One. Joakim Noah, Courtney Lee. I mean,
I like the Courtney Lee signing.
I don't, because I think the combination of Courtney Lee and Joakim Noah prevented them from getting Dwayne Wade, which would have been a champion in that locker room.
Yeah.
In that locker room, right? So you got that going on, and then you got to look at, all right, Derrick Rose was an upgrade from Jose Calderon, but the bottom line is everything that Phil has done with his behavior, with his chirping about Carmelo, the tweeting, and now getting in the way of Jeff Hornacek. This reeks of sabotage.
Look,
he is trying to force the New York Knicks to get rid of him. I think he wants out.
This is the last day for a buyout, right? Like, if they're going to get rid of Derrick Rose, it's going to happen today at some point. And that's possible. And then he's just gone, and you didn't get anything for him. Though you didn't, you didn't have to give up a whole lot for him anyway.
You clear the cap space,
You clear, right, I guess, or you start to institute the triangle. Here's the problem.
Yep.
Phil Jackson is building a train in a league of supersonic jets. So even if it's a bullet train, it doesn't matter. It's too slow. Empirically, everyone has discovered that the best way to win are dunks and threes. And you know how you do that? Spread, pick, and roll, and you get out in transition. Those are the ways you get to the most efficient way of scoring. And Phil Jackson has this slavish devotion to the triangle offense. He's a triangle ideologue. I mean, it's unbelievable. And so, and since he fancies himself a philosopher of sorts, and you would think he'd be more open to empirical, data. He's not. He's closed off to it. He's forcing this outdated system. I'm not saying the triangle never works. Popovich uses it sometimes in the Spurs offense. But even when they were winning with Kobe and Pau, in the last iteration of the triangle that worked in L.A., they were running a lot of pick and roll. The fact that he's now trying to shoehorn this, he's trying to cram this square-shaped, offense into a circle-shaped league, it doesn't make any sense. So I agree with Larry Brown. Get down there and coach, Phil, so when none of that, crazy stuff works, when it fails, you get to hear it from the fans every night. You have Kristaps Porzingis, Kristaps Porzingis is almost as tall as Yao Ming was. He's 7'3", and he can play facing the basket and shoot the three and defend and do all kinds of stuff. That is a huge strategic advantage. That's what you have going for you. Exploit that. Forget about forcing the team to play in a certain philosophy, which the rest of the league, all the successful teams, realize you can use here and there, but not as your primary offensive philosophy. It makes no sense. He is burying this franchise. I hope you're right, Stephen A., and that he's trying to get himself fired. But Dolan, if you're listening, do that now. Do it now. Cut your losses now before he fritters away the advantage that the Knicks have. Kristaps Porzingis.
be clear about something. Phil Jackson doesn't want to coach because it's not a championship roster. Phil Jackson doesn't want to sully his coaching record. He wants to be attached to greatness,
go, guys.
and he knows he can't pull that off here. He ain't coaching.
We got to leave it there. You know who might want to go to New York? That would be Colin Kaepernick. He's decided on his future. We will tell you what he decided after the break. Kirk Cousins will be making franchise money next season, but which franchise will it be with, Washington or San Francisco? We could have a role reversal here. Stay here.
The best recognize the best. I'm talking about First Take, the best debate show on TV. We're talking about sports debate, too. They can go anywhere. First Take, my man Stephen A., Molly, my girl, and, of course, Max. What can we say?
Let's get it cracking. Let's start the session. March length the competition, balls start that action. You can never debate it. This is actual fact. Stephen A. and Max Kale said they say it's a rap. I'm like, say what? Say what? What's up with all my haters? I'm a ball when I perform. So my jersey's in the air. I'm allergic to my haters. Every morning I prepare. Lot of clothes I can wear just like them Oregon players. Yeah, quack, quack. What it do? Rap like it's nothing to it. Matter of fact, you can ask hard and I'm cooking too. Base guard cooking too. Nah, look at you. Great mind. They embrace mine like a crook or two. 4 takes. That's you. 3 takes. Not me. 2 takes if you lucky. First take. Stop me. 4 takes. That's you. 3 takes. Not me. 2 takes if you lucky. First take. You got me.
Well, hello there. Good day. Come on in. This is First Take. Thank you so much for hanging with us. We have a lot to get into, correct, Max Kellerman?
A lot of it, not all of it's good.
Mm-hmm. Stephen A. is in NYC. How we doing today?
Good morning. Good morning. How y'all doing? Let's get it on.
We're good.
Let's get it on.
We ready to work? Here we go.
Always.
Folks in the Bay Area are still holding their collective breath after their prize acquisition. Kevin Durant hyperextended his left knee in his hometown. We do have an update for you. That's coming up. Teammate Jaja Pachulia was tossed backward and landed on Durant's left leg. Katie stayed in for a few more possessions before limping off toward the locker room for good when Golden State called a timeout. Now, Durant underwent an MRI. Golden State will reveal those results a little later today. We'll give you those as soon as we have them. But meanwhile, Matt Barnes' name has been trending all morning on Twitter. Barnes confirmed to ESPN that the Warriors have lined him up as a potential Durant fill-in. Here's his coach and teammate on that injury.
I'm always concerned about any injury because you never know how bad it's going to be. So we'll just wait and see and keep our fingers crossed. You're never comfortable when you lose somebody who's one of the best players in the league.
They're obviously concerned. You know, anytime a guy goes down, especially when you're talking knees, you know, it's a concern. But, you know, nonetheless, we still got to figure everything out, you know, why he's not out there. But, you know, hopefully he's okay. We're not going to act like he died, you know, and we don't even know what happened. You know, what's going on. Like, you got to know something before you can kind of go along those lines. You know, we really don't know much right now.
Leave it to Draymond to bring a little levity to the situation, but we do know something now. This just in, a source close to Durant telling our Jeff Goodman that he will be back for the playoffs. So, Stephen A., with that, I ask you this question. If Durant is less than 100%, do the Warriors still win the West?
No, I'm not so sure about that. That's number one. And before I get into anything else, I reported on SportsCenter about a half hour ago. The Warriors are going to release some information within the next couple of minutes talking about how Durant is expected to be back for the playoffs. I reported that about a half hour ago. But I'm also hearing from other sources that they may be keeping information from folks. There's some real concerns as to whether or not Kevin Durant's season is done. I'm not sure what's going on right now, but I can tell you Warrior sources have told me that even though he's expected to be out for the rest of the regular season, he will be back for the playoffs. That is their position. Others outside of the organization, but connected in NBA circles, swear they're hearing something entirely different, that Durant may end up being done. I don't know what to tell you. We'll go with what the Warriors are saying. Having said all of that, when I look at the Warriors right now, let's not underestimate the San Antonio Spurs or the Houston Rockets. Certainly Kevin Durant being gone is a devastating blow, but they're still a legitimate team. And the acquisition of Matt Barnes with his mental toughness, with his tenacity, with his fearlessness, because he's not scared of anybody. As far as I'm concerned, that's a welcomed addition to any bona fide playoff roster. But I can't ignore what I'm seeing from the San Antonio Spurs and the Houston Rockets. In the case of the San Antonio Spurs, Max, we're looking at a team with Kawhi Leonard, who is a league MVP candidate. The acquisition of Pau Gasol in concert with LaMarcus Aldridge gives them size on the front line, and then you have a guy in Greg Popovich who recognizes his team is slower, but they're very experienced, and if anybody could dictate pace, they can. A matter of fact, at some point in time, Max, you and I may need to get into a discussion whether or not LeBron James and those boys are happy KD is hurt, because basically if the KD is hurt and can't go, if the San Antonio Spurs are the team that LeBron James has to face, I'm not sure he'd look forward to that. In the case of the Houston Rockets, you got a guy in James Harden that told me during Super Bowl week that the ball is in my hands. I'm going to get dudes in foul trouble. More importantly, I'm not going to be the timid soul who came off the bench for the Oklahoma City Thunder 5 years ago when we lost in the finals to the Miami Heat. I'm going to be far, far more